The job of weather forecaster in Indianapolis is not so difficult because if it's pole day, well, then it must rain. That's exactly what it did here this morning. This is the first day of time trials for the 79th running of the Indianapolis 500. But as you can see, the track is almost dry. The sun is out, and we expect some practice very shortly before qualifying here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Hi and welcome. I'm Paul Page. ABC Sports is going to have coverage all through the afternoon and, of course, tomorrow of the time trials here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, there is a delay, of course, because of the rain, because one of the rules here requires that the cars be given a minimum of 30 minutes of practice time. And since there are so many entries here, over 100 entries, they break it up into two groups. So that's probably an hour of practice, but boy, that practice can have more cars on the track than they actually do on race day. So it's really something to watch, and we'll be enjoying it with you. Now, the real key to this day, of course, is how the different rules get slid back and forth. It's a matter of interpretation, and all that interpretation belongs to one man, the chief steward of the race, Tom Binford. And right now, he's with Gary Gerald.
And Paul, this is the 22nd 500-mile race for Tom Binford, and so many times it seems like, as you indicated, on pole day we end up in this conversation with a bit of a delay. But the good news, the sun is shining. The wind has really picked up now. The drying process is moving very, very quickly. Tom, tell us now about how this whole business of practice is structured. What's the procedure?
Well, we'll stick as close to the original one as we can, but we're going to shorten it a little bit. The first half of the field that drew last night will be able to practice for 30 minutes. That's 30 minutes of green time. And they come off in the second half. They'll have 30 minutes of green time. And then practice will be over. And there'll be 30 minutes for them to get in line, get fueled, get in line for qualifying. So it's about, ideally it'd be an hour and a half, but I'm sure it's going to take more than that to get 30 minutes of green time in.
Now, in your best guess right now, barring any further precipitation, how long do you think we'll be able to get on the racetrack?
Well, what are we dealing with? About how many hours we'll have for qualifying?
No, I'm sorry. Before you can get cars out to practice, it's 11 o'clock now. Do you think we can be out there in an hour?
Looking at, hopefully we can be out there by 12, but we can't guarantee that.
Absolutely, we understand that. I know that you're a magician. You do a lot of wonderful things around this place, but that's the one element you can't control. He's got a lot of key decisions to make, and so will the teams, because with this wind coming up, with a green racetrack, all of that will come into play, and hopefully we'll see qualifying before we complete our show here today. Paul?
Of course, when we're talking those times, we're talking local time here in Indianapolis, which is an hour off of the East Coast. Now that we know we have the time, I'll tell you what we're going to be able to do with it. There are many great stories going on here, and we're going to be able to talk with the teams and the drivers as they make their final preparations for qualifying. And what are they ready for? Flat-out speed at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which we have seen in the 7 days of practice leading up to this first day of time trials. Take a look at some of these speeds, and let me tell you something. The first three on there easily break the existing track record of 232.6 miles an hour, and there are 14 cars already over 230 miles an hour for a single lap. So what we're going to see is speed. Now remember, those are all unofficial speeds. The only time you can set an official speed at Indianapolis is during your time trial or during the race itself. So it's all unofficial right now. But when we're talking about speeds, Bobby Unser, we've seen some awesome speeds here.
Really awesome speeds, Paul, and they come from mainly two reasons, horsepower and tires. You know, the Menard Buick V6 engines are really producing a lot of horsepower. Straightaway speed is awesome. Going across the short chutes is really awesome also. And then the big change this year is tires. Firestone is back after a long time away, giving Goodyear a lot of competition. It's my guess that last year, Goodyear knew that Firestone was coming back. They held back the really good development that they've had for so many years, and they're giving it to Firestone, but they're both fast.
So overnight, all of the teams have taken out that practice engine that they've used all week. They've plugged in that qualifying engine, which is supposedly a little hotter, and then they'll go out and practice this morning, and that will give us a real good indication of how they can qualify. Now, normally, Sam Posey is up here in the booth with us, but we've sent him out into the garage area, and they're in the garages. You see them right there. is where the cars are right now. And Sam can look a little closer at this whole issue of 2 new tires.
Well, the reason for the speed last year was largely horsepower. The Mercedes-Benz engine cars of Roger Penske went 248 miles an hour down the straight while doing a lap of only 228, a 20-mile-an-hour split. This year, the Menard cars, which are the fastest, of course, are much better balanced. They do about 241 on the straight, but they do 234 around the track, a much closer split. The reason for that, most people feel, is handling much better this year than last year. And the reason handling is better is this. There's a new tire company on the block here, or rather an old one that has come back to its traditional stomping grounds, Indianapolis. For the last 20 years, Goodyear has had this place to itself. And because of that, naturally, tire development has somewhat stagnated and has been focused more on safety than performance. Now performance is back, and back big time. These 2 tires, brought here by Goodyear and Firestone, are the finest tires and the fastest this speedway has ever known. And believe me, it's only the beginning. The next couple of years are going to see an intense rivalry between these 2 great manufacturers, and I think we're going to see a tremendous increase of speed. Now, ordinarily, Jack Arute would be with us here, but he's with his daughter at her graduation instead. So we have now to go to Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Thank you, Sam. As usual, the early days in the month of May are spent in the pursuit of speed, or as the crew members call it affectionately, the hunt for happiness. You don't have to look far to find smiles or speed here in the garage area. Just come to Team Menard, where both teammates Ari Lyondike and Scott Braden have been over 234 miles per hour in practice. Why the speed? Well, let me show you. This baby right here, 209 cubic inches of horsepower. Stock block V6, former Buick now, but that was years ago. It's been refined. It is now the Menard V6. Estimates are horsepower 890, maybe 900 horsepower. It certainly shows the muscle on the racetrack. It is this engine that'll be put in the car behind me that Ari Lyondike will roll out 5th today to attempt to qualify. Remember, this car right here yesterday, late in the day, ran a lap at almost 235 miles per hour. So we'll see awfully early in qualifying who has the muscle in the month of May. Gary?
Certainly another very interesting story throughout this first week of practice leading to qualifying is the travails of Team Penske. You know of their great success here at Indianapolis over the years. The Penske teams have won 10 times in the 500. And of course, they're the defending champions in Al Unser Jr. driving for Roger Penske. This year, they've had a hard time getting their car balanced so that they can get comfortably through the corners at full speed. For most of this week of practice, both Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi have been hung up in the mid-220 range. Now, yesterday, Little Al hit a top speed of 227.2, Fittipaldi a fraction under 225. But as you can tell, that puts them significantly off the pace set by so many who've been over that 230 mark. A couple of things to keep in mind. The Mercedes engine that's being used this year at the 500, not to be confused with the Mercedes power plant that won this race a year ago. And we're going to be talking more about that as this broadcast continues. We'll tell you about the differences in how the rules were changed and what happened, the impact it's had here with the Penske team. Very interesting story. Now, speaking of power plants, let's check in again with Jerry.
Gary, one of the incredible comebacks in 1995 is the Honda engine. Grossly under horsepower a year ago, the car failed miserably attempting to qualify for the race, a little over 222 miles per hour. But what a difference here in 95. This Honda, totally redesigned on the inside, looks the same on the outside, over 232 miles per hour by Scott Goodyear, and over 231 by rookie Andre Ribeiro. This team, a threat to qualify today, but also a threat possibly for the front row. What a comeback for Honda. Paul?
So those are some of the great stories that we have for you. And consider this, many of the drivers here have already turned laps that are well above their previous personal bests. We'll be right back. We're back live at Indianapolis. You can see the track is almost completely dry. Just a little water down there along the inside the wall on the front straightaway. And many of the cars should be approaching the line very shortly. And the crowd, well, they're coming out from undercover and heading for the grandstands. Now let's take you back yesterday to Ari Lyondike's run late in the afternoon. This is the fastest unofficial lap ever run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You can just watch how good his chassis is handling. Look
Look at where he is on the track. He's out wide, really close to the wall, Paul. Watch him as he dips down, takes a wide approach to the turns, right down close to the white line, out very close to the wall. And you can watch in just a minute, he even uses any type of air help, in other words, drafting, that he can get from other cars. He has a lot of confidence. The engine works good, but his total combination, his handling is good along with the engine.
Yes, they've worked with this chassis specifically as modified and designed to carry this engine, and it's a very precise setup.
For example, look at the hood there. You'll see the big bump on the hood covering the air box on the engine, and that ironically didn't hurt the speed on the car.
So there it is, the fastest unofficial lap ever. And the man who did it, well, he's right now with Jerry Punch.
Paul, we are standing by with Ari Leindock. Showed that tremendous lap late yesterday, Ari. And first I've got to ask you, did it feel like you were almost 235? Was it uncomfortable at all?
No, I was quite comfortable, but the car is right there where it should be, you know, not pushing too much and not loose. So we're right on the edge of being running the car in neutral.
The comments all month have been the concern about the handling or reliability. Years past, the Buicks or the Menard was very strong on the straightaways, but lacked it in the turn. We're not seeing the speed drop off this year in the turns.
No, the handling of the car is very good. The engineers have done a good job, and like yesterday, the car was neutral, and you don't want it too neutral, and it could get a little bit difficult today with the wind. So conditions are going to play a major part in today's speeds, but 235 was definitely in the cards yesterday, but we ran the wrong gear because we hadn't been able to get 4 laps in a row like we did, but we did do a 34.5 average on 4 laps, so we were happy with that. And today we'll just have to see what it brings, because the wind is quite a factor today.
The wind is obviously up today, as you said, Ari, but the temperature is somewhat cooler than anticipated. That has to be in your favor.
It always is, and not just for us, but for every car driver combination out there, because the engines like the cool temperatures.
You know, you got to wonder that the closest rival in speed for the pole has got to be your teammate, Scott Brayton. Any competition between teammates here as far as who's going to be on the pole on the 28th?
Well, I hope that's true, that he's my only competition for the pole, and you know, may the best combination win, because the luck of the draw could be a deciding factor then. So, but obviously we're both going for it.
You won the pole here in 1993. How important is it to be on the pole for the Indy 500?
Well, it's important to be as far up front as you can, because with the turbulence of all the cars, if you're starting in the middle of the pack, it could get quite tricky, and you know, at the start of the race. So, and the pole is always a prestigious thing, and it's just great to be here. There's a lot of people out there, and it's just a big event.
Let me ask you a final question. 235 today, will we see it?
I doubt it with the winds, but as you say, the cool temperatures might help, so we might be knocking on the door.
I know you guys are so confident. Your teammate Scotty Braden behind you here. Scotty, move in here a second. Come on in, Scotty. Let me ask you that. You guys have been very, very confident this month. It would have to be disappointing if one of you two guys didn't win the pole.
Well, that's correct. Our lockers are back there, and there'd be a lot of crying.
Would you be unpacking one of those lockers if you didn't win the pole?
No, it's not that. I mean, you know, if we have something crazy happen to us, it happens. I mean, this is the sport of racing, but Ari's been very fast, and I've been fast, and I think that we both have an excellent shot at it. The conditions are changing considerably for today. It's much windier. I don't think that you're going to see the extreme speeds that we've been able to get the last couple days, but it's still going to be fast. I think there's possibility of a new track record.
What does the wind do to a driver on a qualifying lap when you've got it all hung out there to the edge? I mean, what concerns you most?
Well, it's going to change 1 and 3. And so it's just going to be, it's going to make it more interesting for the two of us, let's say.
Well, let's see now, John Menard here, who's calling the shots. John, let's get John Menard in here, who owns these cars. And John, it's been like a dream month for you to possibly, a self-made man, to be able to maybe reclaim the front row for an American-made engine. How about it? Can you guys do it?
Oh, I think we can do it. I got every confidence in Scotty and Ari. One of these two guys are going to be on the pole yet today.
You refuse to give up on the stock block engine. Why?
Well, you know, I'm stubborn, I guess, and I believe in American-made things, and I think we're smart in this country, too, and we don't have to have everything made in England to race.
After what happened last year with the 209 cubic inch Mercedes, would you expect to see anything happen next year possibly as far as the boost to the Buick or to the Menard if you guys are as quick as we expect you to be?
Well, I hope not, but nothing would surprise me.
John Menard, Scott Braden, and Ari Leindock, the team that hopes to be able to get 2 spots and maybe a 3rd car, if what I hear is true out of this shop, maybe sweeping the front row in pole qualifying Indy today. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, we're back deep among the transporters in the Dick Simon, one of his transporters, and we've got all kinds of computer equipment back here. And right up until 20 seconds ago, we had a beautiful county-by-county radar image of the state of Indiana. But suddenly, this computer with a mind of its own is showing us radar from all over the United States and, for that matter, the world. We were going to show you exactly how optimistic we are about the precipitation, which is moving away from us. It is basically south of Indianapolis now by about 20-25 miles, and it's moving in a northeasterly direction. So it appears from what we were seeing, and I'm sorry that we just can't show it to you. You can get a glimpse. Here's Indiana very quickly. Here's Indianapolis right here. All of that was going in that direction. Here's the satellite, and you can see that it's moving away. So we think that we are going to have a great afternoon for racing. It's going to be windy. The conditions have changed, but at least we're going to be able to get on the racetrack, Paul.
Hey, Gary, I think you have a future as a weatherman. Here is both the good news and the bad news. That's the windsock on top of the pylon on the main straightaway here at Indianapolis. It's straight out. That means the wind's blowing as hard as you can imagine, 25 miles an hour or more. And that means the track will dry quickly. But boy, it's sure going to push those race cars around once they get the track dry, and it may actually scrub off some of the speeds. Well, now let's take a look at the road that's gotten us up to today. This year, the racing season started at Miami on a new track right on Biscayne Boulevard. The new course saw some new faces at the front and some old problems. Michael Andretti took the Miami pole. Mauricio Guzman was second quick, followed by Raul Boisel and Gilles de Ferran. At the green, Michael took the lead. Then his teammate Paul Tracy was first out of the season on his first lap. Michael touched with Eliseo Salazar, but continued on, only to find the damage was too severe and pulled in. Guzman took over for 7 laps and then headed to the pits under a yellow. But Jacques Villeneuve's team was quicker on the stop and gave the 23-year-old Canadian the lead and the win. He was followed by Guzman, Bobby Rahal, and fourth was Firestone driver Scott Pruitt, looking for just one thing.
Consistency, durability, and as we saw, I mean, my car just ran just like a top all day long. Got a little bit, we got to work on our pit stops a little bit, but other than that, I think we did a great job.
Surfers Paradise, Australia. Michael again had the pole and led the first 41 laps, but was reeled in by his teammate Paul Tracy, who finally took the lead. Now Michael began a holding action, trying to defend second from Bobby Rahal. Michael may have driven the finest race of his life, only to slam the barrier on the last lap. Tracy took the win, and for Paul, it was a strong answer to his detractors.
There's always going to be critics. You know, I try to drive my own race, and I think I played it smart today. The crew guys did a great job getting me in and out. We made positions there.
Now it was time for an oval with a new face at the front. Brian Herta with his first pole and straightaway speeds over 200 miles an hour. 11 times the lead changed. Michael for 60 laps. Herta for 30. Paul Tracy for 26. Andre Ribeiro had a scary moment in turn 2. Emmo was now the leader, followed by Michael and Robbie Gordon. But with 6 miles to go, Fittipaldi needed more fuel. As he headed to the Penske pits, Gordon went around Michael Andretti to take the lead of the race. It became Robbie Gordon's first win. Michael never knew he was in the lead.
You had so many emotions. They couldn't make the change on the left rear with that one stop. You didn't know about fuel. Then it ends up you come down and Emerson makes the splash and go and Robbie Gordon gets by you. How was
that
he?
for the win?
That was for the win.
Oh, I didn't even know it.
You didn't know it.
I had no idea I was in the lead, no.
You were there when Emerson had to come in to get topped off with fuel, and the crew, they didn't let you know about this?
No, they didn't.
At Long Beach, Michael Andretti again had the pole with a brilliant qualifying. Paul Tracy was second quick. But then Tracy was closing on de Ferran. And the contact took Tracy out. Al Unser Jr. was now the lead, but Bobby Rahal trying to take the lead coming out of the pits. Al Unser Jr. continued on in front. Rahal dropped out with gearbox problems. Now Michael Andretti was second, but brakes were the end of his day. And Al Unser Jr. took the win for Mercedes-Benz. His Penske was up to the ride that little Al gave it.
It was quite a race. You know, we were working really hard and trying to pass everybody, and we were a little bit hard on the equipment at the beginning of the race to try to get into the lead. And then it was just, you know, Long Beach is tough on the brakes on any car, and so.
Now it was to the oval at Nazareth. Robbie Gordon took his first oval pole. Jimmy Vasser outside. As Tracy was closing on Vassar, they touched. Paul Tracy was out, but Vassar continued on. Now some great racing between Michael and Jacques Villeneuve. Finally, Villeneuve taking the lead. As the leaders made their final pit stop, Eddie Cheever, driving for A.J. Foyt, took a gamble on a one-pit stop race and moved in front. Michael's right front tire was mounted wrong, and coming out of the pits, he took the wall. Cheever, light on fuel, pulled steadily away, and it became a battle between Emerson Fittipaldi and Jacques Villeneuve for second place. A.J. watched his driver pull away in the lead. And then suddenly and without warning, Cheever began to slow. Fittipaldi moved past into the lead, followed by Villeneuve. Cheever was out of fuel. Fittipaldi took the lead and the win. Eddie Cheever thought the cards were stacked against him.
Well, I had 4 aces in my hand, and right at the last minute, that ace turned into a 2. My computer said I had 4.5 gallons on board, which was more than enough. I had ample room. I think something must have gone wrong inside of the tank, and I knew I was in trouble after the second lap on the restart.
5 races, 5 different winners, and the gang was off to Indy. Now consider this, only twice in the last 2 decades has a driver won a race early in the season and then won at Indianapolis. There's downtown Indianapolis just 6 miles away. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 time trials after this message and a word from ABC Station. Back live in Indianapolis, 3 of the greatest names in IndyCar racing, Roger Penske, Al Unser Jr., and 4-time champion Rick Mears, who now consults both Little Al and Fittipaldi on the team. And boy, they've been doing a lot of consulting this week. Now, last night they drew for the qualifying order so that everyone would be guaranteed an opportunity that wanted it. And here's the way that lineup looks. Now, this is not necessarily the exact order in which they'll go out. For example, Davy Jones at the top of the order there has no real practice time in that car and is not expected to go. The second car in line, the 6T car, is Michael Andretti. The T means it's his backup car. He probably won't go. Probably rookie Alessandro Zampedri will be first out, then Brian Herta, and then look there. 5th position, Ari Luyendyk, the fastest car this month of May, and that could very definitely set the standard for the pole for the rest of the day. So that's the qualifying order, and of course they're going down all the way to the bottom of the order, and there are some open spaces, and that's because when they drew the P, nobody drew that particular number, and everybody was real happy that 13 didn't get drawn. Many of these cars are backup cars. Many of these cars have not actually been out on the course, and if they have, they are not up to speed. So we should see some qualifying out of this order, and this particular order guarantees that all of these drivers, despite whatever the weather or whatever the passage of time, that they'll be going out and have a chance and a shot at the pole. You saw Michael Andretti there ready to go out 38th position. Emerson Fittipaldi, that's his backup car. Robbie Gordon, who's brushed the wall here once in the month but didn't lose control. All of these great names lined up and ready to take the run. Now look at Al Unser Jr. there. Last year's pole sitter in 63rd position. So they're all ready to go. We won't see nearly this many runs. In fact, we'll probably see somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 actually go for qualifying on the first day, if in fact it happens today, which we expect it to do. Now let's go to the pits and Gary.
Just inside the garage area, Paul, we find Roger Penske and Rick Mears, who's had such great success at this racetrack. We talked a few minutes ago, Roger, when we came on the air about how tough the week has been, it seems, for your team, trying to find the speed, to find the comfort zone through the corners and chase those doggone Menards. How frustrating has this been this week?
Well, I guess that when you sat on the pole last year and had the success we had, and you come back here and we're struggling for some speed, we realize how good that motor was last year. Unfortunately, the rules were changed and we couldn't run our stock block engine. But again, Al made a real good jump yesterday afternoon, over 227. We think that's going to be a good speed to start with today, and Emerson has put the same setup on. So basically, it's still a long way until we get qualifying over. And you know, we've been here 27 years, and I've been up and I've been down a lot farther than this, and we still came back.
Have you had to change the approach at all, or is it the same typical Penske approach in terms of the testing and the miles on the racetrack, trying to find that comfort zone?
Well, I think you call it a comfort zone. We're looking for a particular speed for qualifying. I think we run the car a lot, what you would call race simulation, so we've got a lot of information there. The issue is with just 2 cars, the amount of information we get versus people that have the Lolas or the other Renards, they get many, many miles of information. But I think our progress has been good. I think that, you know, it's frustrating to a certain extent, but, you know, this place can bite you pretty quick, so we got to be careful we don't we get off our plan and we stay with the program. I think that Rick's been a real big help, and I think Al and Emerson, quite honestly, have been pretty cool at this point, so we'll see if we can turn it up this afternoon.
Let's get a word here from Rick Mears. Rick, so many times you've had the grand success at this racetrack, and we've talked to you in the past about how tough it's been to step aside. Are you totally comfortable now in this role of being more or less a mentor or a coach?
Oh, yeah, very much so. You know, I've really enjoyed the position I'm at now, and, you know, it was the right decision, and definitely, even at this point in time, I've still had no regrets, no second thoughts. I still enjoy working with the Marlboro team and, you know, with Emerson and Al, and in the engineering aspect of it a little bit. I've always enjoyed that, and I'm still comfortable with it. But you know, right now we got to work on the race. You know, that's going to be a little more level playing field, I think, for 500 miles, and that's going to be the key. And that's really what we need to work on.
Thank you so much, both Rick and Roger. Let's go now to Sam Posey.
Well, Gary, I'm with Raul Bosell, who, of course, has been on and off that front row over the last few years. Raul, you've been a major player here, of course, with a 3rd place back in 1989, a 4th place in 1993. You've been over 230 in practice this time. You know, of course, what it is like to sit at the front row of the grid. What do you feel your draw is 47th? That's way late in the afternoon, if it happens at all today. How about these conditions, the wind, the new track?
Well, of course, will be new conditions compared with the last 2 days, which was very, very good days to speeds, as you saw. And, you know, I need to see the conditions. Of course, the wind is picking up a lot today, and I think maybe be one of the last ones will help, because with the rain, clean the track, and this, you know, the guys in front will put more rubber on. So I think maybe it's not that bad for the circumstance to qualify on the back.
Raul, you look so calm now, but in fact, there's so many variables today. It has to be a really long day between now and the time you finally sit in that cockpit.
Yes, I always don't know what to expect when the track changes. So that's the main surprise, and so you have only you know, a short time of practice, and to really figure the last few changes on the car for do your 4-lap run. So it's a very much pressure time, anxiety. So it's one of those wait and see until you get in the car.
Well, speaking of not knowing what to expect, last year Raul started from the middle of the front row with very high expectations, and something really quite amazing happened on that first lap. Now we're going to cue up the first laps of last year's race and watch as Raul watches with us, and we're going to get his comments afterwards. So let's have a look at last year, the Indy 500. Here we go.
Stretch now, beginning to align in their familiar rows of 3. They should go green as they come off the 4th and final turn. An empty track behind the pace car as it accelerates. Al Unser Jr. controls the field. A very slow pace at this point. In a few seconds, it will quicken. We hope for a fast start. We pray for a safe start here in Indianapolis.
Paul, I think he's bringing it down slow to get that pace car out of the way, and then he'll gradually build up as they are now. The crowd is going crazy. They're picking up the pace.
Little Al picks up the pace. Raul Boisel drops back just a bit as the field flows toward the green flag now off the 4th and final corner. Dwayne Sweeney has the flag, and the green flag is out. Oh, look at that start. He gave him the green just as they passed underneath. And Little Al jumps to the lead. Aerial bombs fire off over the top of the track to indicate the start of this great race.
Bobby, I couldn't believe that start. They were totally out of line. I could not believe that he gave that as a green start.
Danny, USAC was considering stopping it. Then they decided maybe it was halfway decent. They decided 2 cars were up. Bosell didn't just keep up. But as they went through turn 2, everybody was smooth and in good shape.
Well, and Bozel's dropped back to about 6th spot. He really got pinched in at the start. I'm sure he's fired up.
You heard Danny Sullivan say maybe they shouldn't have given the green. What was your feeling in the cockpit?
That's exactly was my feeling. When I saw the pace cars way ahead, I thought throw the green, and so I even back off, and I lose all my momentum. So I not only was far away from the 2 pins, but I lost another 2-3 spots, and definitely was an awkward start. In my opinion, they didn't throw the green because it was so not in line, the 3 cars in front that was even funny.
You may not want to see this, but we have a replay of it. You may not want to see it again. This is from the blimp. We see you dropping back, of course, there in the center as you come out of, and here goes the start. We see you dropping back already into 4th. Tell me what happens when your game plan and the ideas that you've gone over and over again in your mind in the days leading up to the race is suddenly so altered by what happens in the first few.
Well, immediately we change your plans, you know, where you are in the race, and say, okay, now concentrate in the race. Don't let this bother, you know, because it's such a long race, and you know, just concentrate what the car do and try to make our place again.
Yeah. Well, this will be your 9th Indianapolis, and I hope it goes a little smoother than some of your others have. Paul?
Many of us believe that Raul Boesel is definitely due a win here at Indianapolis, and they're beginning to pull the cars out now. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 time trials after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back live at Indianapolis, and maybe we spoke a little too soon. It started to sprinkle here once again. Maybe it's the fact they bring the cars out into the pit area that triggers that, but it's a very light sprinkle, and if it just stays this way, we're still going to get some practice and qualifying in today. But now let's go back once again to the garage area and Jerry Punch. Well, apparently we're having a problem there with Jerry's microphone. We'll get that fixed up for you. You saw with him Mario Andretti, who drove his last Indianapolis 500-mile race here last year, and this year is here as a spectator, though a highly decorated spectator. He can get around about anywhere he wants in the grounds, even without all of the credentials necessary for the Indy 500, because that's one of the most memorable faces in the sport. And he's, of course, overseen his son, Michael, as he attempts to qualify and win the Indy 500. Let's go back to Jerry.
Thanks, Paul. We're with the legendary Mario Andretti. Mario, so much emotion a year ago here in the month of May for you, your last Indianapolis 500, so much anticipation and so much buildup. Now you reflect back a year later. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously, you know, the anticipation is always there. You know, this particular race just brings it on. You know, you wait so long and can hardly wait to get the start, and then of course, you know, the pressure's there, and you can cut it with a knife. You know, but you know, this year now I'm obviously much more relaxed. You know, I don't have to be on time for anything.
You told me, you said, I'm not going to get emotional. Yet when they played back home again in Indiana and you made that last stroll out and the harangue of people began shouting, Mario, Mario, we saw some tears.
Well, of course, you know, being here for so many years and really, truly loving what I do, what I did as a driver, and just feeling totally blessed for the opportunities that I've had here for so many years, and then knowing that it's going to be the last time, you know, it's got to choke you a little bit.
So many fans wanted the last one to be win number 2 for Mario Andretti, but it was not to be. The anticipation and the build-up, Mario. We've got a clip here of what happened in the early laps a year ago. Obviously, the frustration continued as you watch. They're sitting in the pits after 23 laps.
Yeah, I guess it was all over by then, and it was just a fuel check valve, which was something obviously totally unpredictable that just let me down. But the car was just was running so well, actually, because the way the start was, I was able to really take advantage of it and jump right into 4th, and you know, early on in the race we were just riding along, and obviously the Penske's had their own way, but we thought we were, you know, doing pretty much what we were expected to do, and I thought it was going to be a nice long day and possibly productive. But you know, it's like many other times. Here we were early on in the pits, and yeah, it was very disappointing, no question about it. That's where the tear really came out.
We said in your living room at the end of last year in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, you said, I think I'm going to take a vacation. I've never had one. Now, what else have you done? What's Mario doing now?
I'm still looking for a time to take that vacation. I've been really quite busy as I want to be, and I've a lot of work with Texaco, and that's going to last for a long time, and cultivating other aspects that I haven't had a chance to do before, you know, my wine and my book and all that sort of thing.
You said that day in the living room, I'll know if I'm going to miss it after I've been away for a while. No, it's been a year. Do you miss it?
Still miss it. I'm very healthy. I feel younger than I actually am. So I don't have any arthritis yet or any of those things. So I guess that because of that, I feel healthy, and I know I'm going to miss it for quite some time yet. But I'm sort of settling in and following with a lot of interest, obviously, Michael and Jeff, and I think that's going to keep me busy.
Now, what about some other types of cars? You mentioned possibly the 24 Hours of Daytona and some other entries. Will you take a shot at getting in some of those rides just intermittently?
Well, yeah. Well, yes, we had a plan in place for Daytona Le Mans, but it sort of went by the wayside, and now I think it looks like I'm going to try to plan for next year and to be able to do at least 2 or 3 races of that sort, and that's going to be good for me because I think I need some of that release yet.
Paul, as always, the legend continues. Mario Andretti here at the Brickyard once again, this time, though, not as a driver.
He is forever young. Well, it's still raining here, but the wind's picked up. We do expect to see some practice and qualifying. And when we come back, we'll look at the finish of last year's race. Some surprises there. Back at Indianapolis, there you see it, the great 2.5-mile oval, though it's really a rectangle down below, and the rain coming from up in the sky. But still, the winds are keeping everything fairly dry here, and I think we're going to have some practice, if not qualifying, very, very shortly here. Now, coming up next, we'll head to Texas for one of the oldest stops on the tour. It's the GTE Byron Nelson Classic, and then American Cheney Humphrey and the country's best take on Belarus and China at the Visa Gymnastics Challenge, plus the Pimlico Special. And updates from Indy on the Valvoline Indianapolis 500 Time Trials Report. That's all later today right here on ABC Sports. Well, let's continue our conversation about last year's run of the Indy 500. It looked like Fittipaldi had it all locked up going to the finish, but didn't turn out that way. 2 of those key participants are now with Gary Gerould.
Well, Paul, it's indeed a great pleasure to be able to sit among so much talent. 2-time winners of the Indy 500, Emerson Fittipaldi, my left, Al Unser Jr., of course, on my right. And my last year, in the month of May, it seemed like everywhere you turned, everything you heard, Team Penske, the Mercedes power plant. And it just continued all season long. This year, it hasn't been quite that successful. Before we go back into reliving the end of last year's race, Al, how much of a struggle has it been during this first week, trying to inch your way up to respectable speed?
Well, it's been definitely a challenge for us, and it has been a bit of a struggle, but you know, we found quite a bit of speed yesterday, and we got up to reasonable speeds versus everybody else, and so, you know, the Marlboro car is definitely getting there. It's getting around the corner a lot better than at the beginning of the week, and so we're pretty happy.
You've got your fire suit on, your driving suit. You thought you were ready to get out here in the next few minutes and get in the race car. Now another setback. And again, more annoyance and something, I guess, that you get used to in all your years now at Indianapolis, because inevitably, sometime it's going to rain.
You bet. Well, when I was a rookie here in '83, you know, the first weekend got rained out, and so we got used to it, you know, right away. So.
Let's turn over to Emerson for just a moment. Emo, we've talked about trying to find a comfort zone. I understand it's trying to get the balance of the race car, particularly in the corner. Has that been the key trouble for you and your teammate this week?
Well, I think that's, like Junior said, that's correct. We're trying to pick up speed, and Junior had a good lap yesterday. Last night, that I'm putting my car basically his setup, and I hope that with his setup we can come back again to a competitive speed and competitive pace, and be able to have a reasonable qualifying. We'll be like a few days behind, but hope that will bring us the speed back again.
We made the point earlier that there's a considerable difference between the Mercedes that powered your teammate to victory and powered you so close to a win last year than the Mercedes you have this year. What's the difference from the driver's standpoint? What's the different feel for you this year opposed to 1 year ago?
Well, the whole package, the engine package is a completely different engine, but the new Mercedes-Benz engine that we're running now, it should be strong. Yes, the Rahal and Raul, they're up to close to 230s. I mean, that's the speed we are looking for, 230, 231. And I think the new engine will provide that speed, but it's a different rule, I mean, different type of engine. But we'll be up there.
Well, let's go back back to May of 1994 and relive the final laps of the Indy 500. And for one of these men, oh, such bitter disappointment. For the other one, jubilation. And they're reliving it already. Paul Page will take us back to the final laps a year ago.
Just moments ago, Emerson Fittipaldi came up inside Al Unser Jr. and just blew him away. And now Fittipaldi is the sole occupant of the lead by a full lap, a full 2.5 miles.
And what this means, Paul, is that the most Emma would lose like on a real quick splash stop is about a half a lap. So Emma's in the best position.
Yeah, but look at this, Bobby. Look at this. Here's little Al and Emerson. The Penske car is drag racing into the corner.
And remember what happened here in 1989 when Emerson had been leading and Al came up from behind. They touched with a lap and a quarter to go over in turn 3. And after that big accident, which put Al into the wall and Emerson into victory circle, little Al came out and gave Emerson a big thumbs up. He bore him no ill will for what happened. And now they're teammates, and I think that cementing of that relationship then is key to what's happening right now.
Sam,
18 laps to go.
He certainly woke him up. That's for certain sure. You can see that.
Yeah, but Bobby, I think that's great racing, and that shows the competitiveness of little Al. He knows that the only chance he stands is he's got to stay on that lead lap. He cannot go a lap down.
You know, to these drivers, winning is really the only thing.
Bobby, they only would put one person on that winner's podium.
What's the strategy now? Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, it's beginning to develop. There's a set of computers in both pits. They can read each other's vital information. This is Emerson Fittipaldi's computer. They know that little Al could maybe stretch the fuel mileage if he conserves fuel. The window's about 2 laps. For Emerson Fittipaldi, this will be the most important device all day. This is the stick that they'll tap the fuel man with as they take their time stop about lap 194. This is the stick right here, gentlemen.
Well, of course, if little Al was conserving fuel, Jack, he should be drafting Emerson Fittipaldi, not leading him.
But Sam, the idea there is...
Oh, that's Emerson.
Yellow comes out.
That's Emerson.
And I just started to say the problem is he can't afford to be down a lap and have something like this happen. He's got to be ahead, and that's the way it turned out.
As we suggested, within the last 20 laps, the last 50 miles, and Emerson Fittipaldi brushes the wall on lap 184.
You should hear the crowd.
Down here in turn 2, everybody is standing up, literally every person.
The same in turn 4. Of course, it happened right here in turn 4. I couldn't believe it. He just got a little bit loose.
Let's watch it. Oh, boy. They had the race locked up.
The rear end just jumped right out from under it. He had to correct it right into the wall.
Danny, you were watching it.
I was sitting there watching that. I'm not so sure the air wasn't disturbed. I think he wanted to make a run a little bit at little Al. He looked like he wanted to go back and try to pass him, and he just lost it.
So Emerson Fittipaldi is out. One more replay for you.
You know, I have to say that there's a real good chance that he had a sudden puncture in the right rear. You watch that car. It didn't let loose gradually. It let loose just really
quick. And you know, Bobby, his angle didn't look bad. It didn't look like he got down on the apron or anything. It just looked like
Danny,
all of a sudden went wrong.
I think he really had a puncture in the tire. Something that happened really quick because you could watch him feeding that front end to it. So he obviously felt something very sudden.
The 6th yellow of the day for the leader of the race. In that instant, Emerson Fittipaldi's $1 million and 3rd Indy win go out the window. There's Fittipaldi. He walks back now after lap at 200 miles an hour. Teresa already heading back toward the garage area. She's only worried about her husband. Arie Luyendyk pulls to the inside. He's apparently out of the race. Indication is the motor's gone on Landijk's car. He started with 3. Now Penske is left just with Al Unser Jr., but he's left with the leader of the race. So Little Al alone on his lap now.
With 15 laps to go.
So barring some remarkable occurrence now, Al Unser Jr. will win the 78th running of the Indianapolis 500. He has 2.5 miles to go. The final lap will occur under the yellow flag. The rules don't permit them to turn the yellow on somewhere around the track. But Big Al and Roger Penske both know it's not really over until he crosses that final line, as trite as it may sound.
And Paul,
that driver in that cockpit has to be listening to the car, has to be making sure that even at 80 miles an hour, I can make it, right, Bobby?
Yes, that's for certain, sure. You know, even as the white flag came out, the people down here just roaring. Down here now, when they come by, the people are clapping. They're all standing up. Everybody is screaming. So obviously, they're very happy.
And Bobby, one of the second turn. Go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Paul. One of the things here, this has got to be the longest lap in history for him. He just wants it to be over, and he'd much prefer to do it at 220 miles an hour.
Little Al's mom heading for winner's circle. A brand new winner's circle, by the way, at the Speedway here this year. Little Al's going to get to christen it. It truly is a circle right in front of the master control tower.
I think all month of Little Al driving this big old thing called a Hummer, a big Jeep back and forth around the Speedway with a big grin on his face ever since he won the pole position. It has been his month of May at Indianapolis.
Well, of course, the same thing's happening down here in turn 4. They are all waving hats, cheering, going crazy, and Little Al is not about to put that hand up until he crosses that start-finish line.
History in the making.
Well, that's the way it folded up last year. Emerson, I know they're calling you. You've got to get to another commitment immediately. A quick reaction. How tough has it been to put all that disappointment behind you, and what was the actual problem?
Well, when I call Chuck to know my position, because I had to come to another pit stop since I got the plastic bag. I lost this right segment of the race, and I asked if I am behind Junior. I'm still going out ahead of Junior. He said, I'm not sure. And that gives, I was very anxious because I want to get a lap ahead of Junior to be able to come in, have a splash and go, and still win the race. And then I passed Junior, Junior passed me again. And I got very anxious behind, and I asked Chuck, tell me, Chuck, can I come in just behind you or I have to be a lap ahead? And he said, wait. He never answered back, and I was too anxious. I was running too close behind him. I got his draft, and I lost the back end of the car, and that's it. And I learned, you know, with all my experience in Indianapolis, you cannot be anxious in this place. And you have to be cool and try to stay under control. And I was just too motivated to pass him, too anxious to get Junior back again in one lap ahead and to come in. And that's exactly what happened. I lost control of the car.
Well, I know it was great frustration. We appreciate that you stay and you talk about it with us at this point. I know they need you immediately.
Thanks, Gary. I have to leave now.
Thank you so much, Emerson. Emerson takes exit. We turn to Little Al, and we should mention that he's talking about Chuck Sprague, your team manager. He's on the radio, too. You're on the radio to Roger, and you suddenly find yourself, instead of going a lap down, leading this race. What was the elation, the feeling of the moment? Could you believe it? Did you have any close calls the rest of the way?
Well, no, we didn't have any really close calls for the rest of the way, but, you know, it was surprising to see Emerson into the wall, and you know, it was a mistake that that was to his disappointment, but to my my benefit. So.
We think back to 1989, and you and Emerson, not teammates at that time, got together in another one of the most dramatic finishes here at Indianapolis, and that was the one that ended up being so very costly to you. Here you are now, teammates. Here you are, each with 2 500 victories apiece, and I know each of you wants so desperately to get number 3 as soon as possible.
You bet. We're, you know, we definitely want to do as best we can for the whole Marlboro Team Penske, and really it was something that. You know, we both have felt great disappointment. We both have felt great adulation, and so, you know, every day is a new day. Every race is a new race, and right now the Buicks are the guys to beat right now this year, and so we're going to go out and do the best job we can.
It was a storybook year in 1994 for Al Unser Jr. as the champion, and of course his many victories and the great opportunity for that team. Now this year here at Indianapolis, the first week has been tough. Please don't count them out. They may be there when it's all over. Junior, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
You bet. Thank you.
And good luck in qualifying if we can get this rain to stop and you can get on that track.
You bet. They're expecting us right now.
All right, go to it. So Unser and Fittipaldi are on their way to the racetrack, Paul.
Now, Gary, the rain has stopped. I can remember a few years ago, little Al looking at me and saying, Paul, I don't think I'm ever going to win the thing. I said, I think maybe 5 or 6 times. He's on his way. We'll be right back.
Paul, I'm standing outside of one of the dozens of hospitality tents here at Indianapolis. This particular one is the tent for the Dick Simon team. And I want to kind of sneak in with you here. We've signed in earlier, so don't worry about that. We're just going to drift right by. This is the sign-in area. You notice how many people are in here. It's packed, and it's been packed here for hours. But the person we're headed for is Lynn St. James. She doesn't know we're coming. She has been addressing this group of people. This is, if anything, that she might do better than drive racing cars, it's talk to people like this and make them get excited. I'm going to burst right in. Let's hear what she's saying first.
They're not coming out with some brand new deal. Hi.
We just want to listen for a sec, get a feel.
More questions.
How are you treated by the other drivers? Are you pretty respected?
Yeah, I mean, you know, some are nicer than others because some are nicer than others to most people. I mean, you know, they're people, but most of them, you know, I'm one of the drivers and I'm here, and you know, it's not a real cordial, supportive kind of atmosphere anyway. It's very competitive. So, you know, there's a lot of joking around and there's a lot of casual conversation, but, you know, in-depth wise, it's different.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we interrupt just a sec? We're on live here, Lynn, and we hunted you down because we know you're one of the big stories of the month. Tell us exactly what's happening. I know it's a disappointing few days so far for you.
Well, I'm here with a group from Biomed, which is a sponsor that came in. They're based here in Wausau, Indiana. They make joint replacements and medical equipment. So, you know, I'm talking to sponsors rather than getting ready to be in the race. I'm still trying to...
Well, you've lost a couple of your sponsors.
I've lost a couple. And I want to go on record that it was not JCPenney and Lee and Reebok. They were our sponsors last year. They chose not to renew for this year. It was sponsors new sponsors that I had developed a relationship with and a commitment to come into this Indy 500. So those are the ones that I lost. And you know, we're just regrouping and trying to still pull the funding together to run in the race.
Okay, but time is starting to really run out here. You only have a week and a day before the end of qualifying. What exactly, how do you stand right now?
Well, I stand where I do have a commitment from 2 sponsors, and Dick has said we can get in the car. I can't do it until his other cars are qualified at least so that he can be prioritized to his commitment. If I am able to get the funding and Dick can't provide the vehicle, then I'm going to start looking around. I'm going to do everything I can to make the race. I hope it rains all weekend. I know the TV people aren't going to like that.
Can you make the switch from someone who's doing this, which is a very busy business that you're up to right now, actively trying to promote money, probably on the phone day and night, and then pull on the other hat and drive the race car?
It's been a hellacious week doing that, and I thought I would normally say it's not a problem, but I have to tell you, by the end of yesterday, I was whipped and focused on the wrong stuff, you know. And so I read the charts, I do a lot of visualization, and the best thing was that I got in the car last weekend and I went 221 after about 20 laps and felt really good. 221 ain't going to make the field, but...
Not now.
No, I know, but I also know we were just getting started and how comfortable I felt. So with a week's time, I have to say my qualifying attempt is going to have to be next weekend, and I hope to not spend next week trying to chase money and spend back being a race car driver, and then I'll be okay.
Well, Lynn, you have legions of fans all over the country, and it isn't just women who support you. You've got a lot of men fans as well. What would it be like to miss the race? Would it really be hard to sit one out?
Yeah, it would. I've sat a lot of them out dreaming to be here. Now that I've been here and done well here and love it and it's in my soul, I don't want to think about that. So I know, but it would be tough.
Good luck to you.
I'll be back. If I'm not here this year, I'm going to be back.
I know you will. Get back to what you were doing. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right. Thanks,
terrific. Good luck. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
I got another sponsor.
With Lynn St. James in Dick Simon's tent just outside of Gasoline Alley.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, when we come back, we'll talk again with the Chief Steward and find out what his plans are. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500-mile race time trials after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back in Indianapolis, a view of the giant sweep of grandstands here. Light rain falling on the main straightaway, but not enough to slow us down that much. And they're working with some weepers on the track. That's where the water kind of oozes out of the track surface, and they actually vacuum it out so they can get the track totally dry. And the crews here are absolute experts at working with that. Now tonight, on the ABC Saturday Night Movie, Tom Selleck, Ted Danson, and Steve Guttenberg star in Three Men and a Little Lady. Then, the commish is back on Saturday with a brand new episode that takes him to New York City. It's all tonight, starting at 8, 7 Central, right here on ABC. Well, let's get a little update now. What's the Chief Steward thinking, Gary Gerald?
We're about to find out. I guess this is becoming an hourly update. You were so close to getting this racetrack open.
We were indeed. If you'd asked me before this little shower came, I would say we had about 20 minutes. But now I'll say we have about maybe 45 minutes if this stops and there's no more rain.
So in the meantime, you keep the equipment out on the track and hope the wind keeps blowing and the showers go away.
Yes, they're working on what we call weepers as well as the track itself. Nobody knows whether they're going to go away or not, but we'll be ready if it doesn't rain anymore. We'll be ready probably in 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay, thanks again, Tom. He's optimistic. He didn't even have his coat on. He's out here in shirt sleeves, Paul.
Started as a Chief Steward in 1974. This is his last year as Chief Steward, and look at the problems he has to deal with. Maybe the race will go nice and smooth for Tom. Let's go back down trackside. Jerry Punch.
Well, Paul, we're back in the garage area with a couple of IndyCar drivers. To my left, Dominic Dobson, who's still a driver, but a car owner now with Pac West Racing. And the guy to my right needs no introduction, the 85 winner, Danny Sullivan. Danny, let me talk with you in just a moment here, but let me ask Dominic about last year, because last year you were with us as a commentator at ABC, and Dominic, you were driving the Indy 500, and it came up on a short afternoon. You had a great qualifying run, but then lap 29, it all went away.
Well, it sure did, and it was a very short afternoon. It was prior to the first pit stop even, where Mike Groff and I got together in turn one, and it ended the race for both of us. So it was too bad, because we had a good race car and a strong race, and it was a first event for a two-car, first Indy 500 for a two-car Pac West team. But those things happen.
Now this year you're back as a car owner. Now what about the plans for possibly getting back in the driver's seat here, maybe next week in qualifying?
Well, that's unlikely. We really don't have a plan. We talked about it, and when we really took a hard look at what it was going to take equipment-wise and personnel-wise, our commitment is to Danny and Maurizio this year. We want to get them in the show here first weekend, and that's our primary focus now.
Well, that was Dominic Dobson's 7th Indy 500 a year ago. Now, he was in the race car, but where was Danny Sullivan? Well, let's show you where he was. He was a commentator up in that tower there out of turn 4 coming down the short chute. And Danny, last year you held a microphone and did a marvelous job.
Well, thanks very much, but I'm still feel a little bit more comfortable driving the car than I did up there in that booth.
Little anxiety, you talking to a few million folks?
Well, it's a little tough, and Paul and Sam and Bobby, yourself, everybody, there were so many people there, just to kind of get a word in edgeways was awful difficult. But it was fun, and it was great to see it from that perspective, and I'm glad I got to participate in it maybe sometime in the future.
Particularly with Sam and Paul and Bobby around, it's hard to get much in. Just don't worry about ordering dinner when you go out with them. Let me ask you this year, how tough is it to come back after a year's absence to the Brickyard?
Well, I think it's difficult for me because in 93 to 94 they changed the rules of the cars. Everybody drove the car last year with a different regulation, so I had to learn a little bit. And even though I've got the experience, I'm learning more from Maurizio than he is from me, because he drove those cars and set them up. And it's been very good, but a little bit tough. The field, as we've seen not only here but in the first 5 races, is about as close and as competitive as we've ever had in IndyCar racing, and it shows in the times here.
Well, a little bit of adversity getting the car up to speed, but if anyone, folks, can deal with adversity, it is the gentleman to my right. Remember 1985? Incredible finish. It's still marvel to watch the spin to win as Jim McKay makes the call, Danny. Let's watch.
Danny Sullivan going down low. Did he make the move? Sullivan down low. Side by side, Sullivan has the lead. Danny Sullivan, Kentucky, and just at that moment, losing control of the car, doing a magnificent job of not hitting the wall and continuing in the race. It's unbelievable.
The incredible move maybe ever in Indianapolis, and Mario didn't hit him, Jim. That's even more incredible. Andretti subtly moving to the side like a fighter, taking a punch but letting it slip by him. Sullivan at 200 miles an recovering from that spin, you have to go back to Jim Clark in 1964-5, Jim, to get a move like that on this racetrack.
I've never seen anything like it on the Indianapolis race.
Incredible.
Unbelievable, but he's going to come in. That may have caused problems in the car.
That is absolutely unbelievable what we saw. Of course, he must now stop because he's flat-spotted those tires. He's coming down that very rough pit lane there, which keeps the speeds down.
Listen to the cheers for him.
Oh, it's incredible. This place has come alive, and of course, Andretti is in the pits too, both the leaders. But Sullivan is going to have to change all 4 tires because of that. Mario will go back out. See, they're even changing that left front tire, which they never change.
Well, that'll cost him the lead, no question of it. But Danny Sullivan is back out on the race course. I have never seen a person take a spin like that and begin to slide towards the wall and still recover. Let's have another look at it. We're going to have slow motion here in just a moment.
I'll tell you exactly what I think happened, Jim, even before seeing it. Aerodynamic effects. Watch what happens. I'll bet you that as Sullivan gets in front of Mario, no, I'm dead wrong. It's running over that the white line. The very thing that he was doing that made him so fast, I think, tripped him in this one move. Yeah, Mario's too far back, I think, to have had a rear guard aerodynamic effect. But all right, now, Andretti faced with the moment of his driving life. He can't see where he's going. Fades slightly to the left by a miracle. Sullivan stays wide enough to the right, hits nothing, and we may have seen the most dramatic moment of racing, certainly that we're going to see this year. Incredible.
Danny, a lot of drama, and you still got a smile watching that. Now, what actually happened? We saw the car began to shift to the right just slightly as you entered the turn.
Well, I just got it to step just a hair, probably from the paint and coming back on the track, just whatever. And I tried to correct it, and it started to point nose first, and then I just turned it back and lost control of it. And just spun around, and then everything kind of cleared, the smoke cleared, and I realized I was facing the right way and took my foot off the brakes and just let it roll again. But it was one, I'd love to say Johnny Rutherford's over here, and I was just say that was all skill, right? And there was a lot of luck there. I just, but you know, the funny part is I was angry during all of it. I wasn't scared of hitting the wall or anything like that. I was just, I finally get in the lead of the Indianapolis 500, and then I blew it. And I'd only been in it for, 10 feet.
Now, what we didn't show, folks, is that some 80 laps later, this guy took that car that looped around at 200 miles per hour and rolled it in and took that drink of milk as the winner of the Indy 500. Now, how about 1995? Coming back from a year off, the speeds are coming back in the Pac West, Reynard, Cosworth. Do you have a good shot at possibly getting win number 2?
Well, I tell you, since I got here, I've tried to concentrate on more race setup than qualifying, because I knew we wouldn't have the speed of the Buicks or some of the big Cosworths, and I just thought, although my teammate has showed that, but I just think my car yesterday, I did my 228 right at 350 in the afternoon. It was hot, it was humid, I didn't have a tow, I didn't have anything. My boost was actually down, not because I didn't want to have more, I just couldn't get it up. And I had a real good race car. I was passing people low and so forth, and that's what we're really concentrating on, is trying to get it good for Memorial Day.
Danny, we're unbiased, of course, but Sam Posey and Bobby Unser want to see you get a good qualifying spot so they have a little more airtime on Sunday for our telecast of the Indy 500. Danny Sullivan, 1985 winner here, visiting with him, and co-owner Dominic Dobson, who owns the Pac West Racing Team. Back to you, Paul.
And Jerry Punch, who may have just given up his television career as an interviewer. There's Scott Pruitt. He's the lead driver for the Firestone contingent. He's ready to go out. High overhead this track right now, and I wouldn't want to be on board today. They're being bounced around. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit of Akron. They're providing these aerial views. The Goodyear Blimp has been flying over major events now for over 61 years. So when we come back, we'll be talking with Scott Pruitt and keeping track of a potential practice. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame Museum in the center of the track, and right next door, the Indy Fan Fest is underway. And many of the fans, when the rain started, headed over there. You can get your picture taken with the Borg Warner Trophy and your winning team, and your photograph taken in an Indy car, mess around with potential pit stops. You can have a great time over at the Fan Fest, not far away from Turn 2 here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's one of the great additions to the race this year. If you're coming out during the week, come over and give it a try. Now, let's go back to the garage area and Sam Posey.
Paul, I'm with Scott Pruitt down here in the garage, and I don't think over there at the Fan Fest they have any roller coaster rides. That's reserved for the drivers here. The emotions go up, they come down. What's it been like the last couple of hours, Scott?
Well, actually, race car. And so when you start fighting weather conditions like this, you kind of get ready to go out on the grid and you slow down. But you know, I think we've got a good car. The Firestone tires have been working real well all month long, and the Patrick guys have been doing a fabulous job. So we're just hope this will blow through and we can get with the program.
At the moment, you're only the 30th fastest. You're not among the really fast cars. Does that trouble you? I mean, is it going to be a white knuckle kind of ride to get this thing in the show?
Well, I don't know about 30th quick. We were 16th quick yesterday, so and we were just a titch under 2:30. So no, it doesn't. I mean, I
made a mistake.
Yeah, I was going to say 30th quick. No, no, not at all. We're just looking to see how far up. We've been real smart about what we've been doing. We've been going out and trying to run in clean air. I mean, it's really easy to generate a fast lap by getting a tow out there. So I think we have a real good chance to be right up in the top 3 or 4 rows.
What's it been like to spearhead the Firestone return to IndyCar racing?
Well, it's been fabulous. You know, Firestone had made the commitment and the announcement in '93. We did a lot of testing throughout 1994, about 10,000 miles. And then now into 1995, here we are leading the championship. And, you know, I just can't say enough about the team. Pat Patrick, Jim McGee, Steve Newey, they've given me a fabulous car. All the guys have been, you know, really super. Things running like a train every race. And we're a little disappointed with Phoenix and Nazareth. We feel we really had a chance to win those races, and hopefully we'll get that done in a not too distant future.
The fact that you are leading the championship, does that give you a different take on how to perform in this race than maybe somebody else? And everyone always says Indy is Indy and you drive it exclusive of the other races. But in view of the championship lead, might you think a little differently?
No, not Indy. I mean, Indy's our Super Bowl, and you're really out there to win the race. We know that, you know, 500 miles is a long way. We feel we have a great engine, which is a Ford Cosworth. We feel we have a great car, which is a Lola, and we feel we have the tires, which are Firestone, to get the job done. So all those things together, and the fact of how well we run and how good the team has reacted to all the situations, I think we have a great chance.
Scott, you sustained terrible injuries in the spring of 1990. At that point, did you ever think you'd be back here standing at Indianapolis fit, ready to go, and a real factor in racing?
Well, I thought we'd be back. You know, at that point in time, it was hard to imagine we'd be back, and especially in this situation. I mean, coming into Indy, leading a championship, and being with a fabulous group of guys. But you know, it just tells you that you got to keep your mind focused. You got to always believe in yourself and always go after your dreams and whatever those might be. And you know, I kept, even though it got trying at times, I kept at it and came back.
Well put. Paul, back to you.
Scott Pruitt, one of the genuinely nice men here. His mom sends everybody homemade cookies at Christmas time. We'll be back in just a moment to talk about some pit stops. We're back live at Indianapolis, and as you can see, well, the umbrellas are down. There's no rain at the moment. Almost all of the cars are in the pit area, and we expect them to head out for the pre-qualifying practice at just any time now. Now, on a qualifying day, it's the man all alone and with his machine. But on race day, the pit crew becomes part of the equation. These Indy cars travel down the straightaway at over 100 yards a second. And because of that fact, the pit stops are absolutely critical. The 500 pit stop is a coordinated mosaic of microseconds. It is the crew's moment in the sun when they can win or lose a race. Performances like this are the result of hours of drill. Under the theory that if they can do it, we can do it better. With the help of driver Robbie Gordon, the ABC pit crew set out to display their pit stop prowess.
Come on, Sam!
I thought you were talking seconds, not minutes.
Yeah, he stands here and he laughs at us, and who can blame him, of course. He was gracious enough to bring his car out after the track had closed and let us make fools of ourselves. Robbie Gordon, we were bad, weren't we?
Well, the thing that scared me the most about it, that was my race car.
And that was the one I had to race with, so you know we were a little nervous about it.
When I faked turning those front wings up there a little bit, I saw you rise up out of the cockpit. He didn't really touch those, did he?
Yeah, I had to ask you after if you touch those because it really makes a big difference here at Indy. If you turn the wing about a turn, the car will go from really loose or really pushy, so you got to be careful.
Well, what you don't know is that I did turn it. You went out the next day and ran over 230 miles an hour, so you thank me.
Oh, thanks.
All right, tell us about the situation now with the wind. When you get on this racetrack, how much will have conditions changed? How will it impact your run to try to be up there on the pole of the front row?
Well, I'm looking pretty good. I was a little bummed yesterday that we drew a bad number. We drew 53, and I think I'm going out 48th now that a couple cars have pulled out. So we'll go out 48th. There'll be a little more rubber down. If you were to go out with a green track like this, you know, it could be a little slippery, but it's nice and cool. You'll have a lot of downforce. Just have to be careful with the wind. Got to watch the windsock and make sure it doesn't push the front end out.
How is this month of May different from your other years here at Indianapolis now that you have won on the IndyCar circuit?
Well, you know, we've been very, very good on the ovals this year. We won Phoenix. We qualified on the pole at Nazareth. We had an opportunity to win in Nazareth. So now coming here and being right, one of the guys that are probably going to be on the front row. You know, there's about 5 or 6 of us that got a shot at the outside front row. The Menard cars, they're so strong. You know, we really gotta hope they make a little mistake. But I know we can go out and run 229-mile-an-hour laps 4 in a row. So that's probably where we'll qualify.
Always fun to watch. We hope it's a good, safe month for you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Sam Posey.
Well, of course, we've been talking about laps in the 230 to 235 mile an hour range. How about a car that has a top speed of over 700 miles an hour? That's what we're looking at here. This is a model of the car that former land speed record holder Craig Breedlove has under construction and is going to try to break the record with this fall. It's an incredible machine. Craig, could you tell us just a little bit about it?
Well, basically, it's a jet-propelled car. The engine's out of an F4 Phantom fighter, and England currently holds the record at 633 miles an hour. And our goal is to return it to the United States sometime this October. We'll have to go something over 640 to do that.
When you're talking horsepower, of course, you're talking these huge numbers. Apparently, it generates about 48,000 horsepower, which is twice what the entire field of 33 cars here at Indy will generate, twice that much. What will it be like, do you suppose, to drive it?
Well, I like to say you never forget passing gear, but no, it's pretty awesome, actually. It accelerates about 3 Gs, and that's a little less than what the guys feel in the corners here. But it's quite a ride, and it's over very quickly. It lasts about 30-some seconds, and then it's time to stop.
You mentioned the 30 seconds. It's been 30 years since you set a land speed record. We have some footage of that time back in the mid-1960s. You can see it there. Craig, talk us through it.
Well, this is in 1964. This was the first 500-mile-an-hour run on land. Arfons had held the record, and this particular shot here is the 608-mile-an-hour Spirit of America, which held the record set the record in 1965. It held it till 1970, and that's a shot. The parachutes should be coming out right here, hopefully.
I guess they did, because you're still here. Craig, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're 58 years old. I think of land speed record breaking as a young man's game. What's it going to be like to strap yourself into this thing?
Well, it's going to be pretty interesting. I think about this myself because of my age, but I feel really good, and it's something that I want to do. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I just had to get myself in a position where I could afford to do it, and recently I got into that place and started the vehicle, and so it's going to be pretty interesting. Actually, I'm getting very excited about doing it.
Paul, if all goes well, this gentleman here sometime in October is going to go more than 700 miles an hour in this thing that looks like a dart or a stiletto, and he's going to return the land speed record to the United States. Good luck to you, Craig. I hope it all works out.
Thank you, Sam.
Paul, back to you.
Yeah, Craig and I were laughing this morning about going down the straightaway here where the wall's only 25 feet away. There's the other Gordon, Jeff Gordon. Last August, he won the first Brickyard 400, and of course this year ABC will have coverage on the first Saturday of August of the second Brickyard 400. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 time trials after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back Back at Indianapolis, our new look down the front straightaway here. You can see they're still working with some of the weepers, but the stewards have been out in the Corvette pace car checking the track, and we're very close to opening it up for some speed here in preparation for time trials. Now tomorrow at 3 Eastern, 2 Central and Pacific, we'll have more action here at the Brickyard as qualifying continues for the Indy 500. Then in 2 weeks, the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. That's Sunday, May 28th. Right here on ABC Sports. Now, a moment ago, we showed you Jeff Gordon. He's with Gary Gerald.
Indeed. A Gordon on one side, a Gordon on another. We talked to Robbie, let's talk to Jeff. And people say, wait a minute, now which Gordon is this? They're not related. A lot of people think that you and Robbie, excuse me, are related, but that's not the case, right?
Oh, I get asked that all the time whether we are or not, but no, we're not related. We've raced against each other a couple times, but we come from same type of background, dirt, but not the same type of race cars. He ran the trucks, I ran the sprint cars and midgets, but I get asked that an awful lot.
We should point out now, in case anybody is confused, Robbie currently, of course, drives in the IndyCar circuit. Jeff is doing a tremendous job on the NASCAR circuit, and already in Winston Cup competition this year, you have what, 3 victories?
Yeah, we've got 3 wins and 4 poles. We're third in the points right now. We're having an excellent season. You know, the consistency has really gotten there the last 5 or 6 races. So now we were winning then crashing, winning then crashing. Now we're starting to just run second, third, and those are what really pays the points. I mean, it's nice to have the wins, but you know, at the end of the year, when it comes down to who's going to win the championship, it's the guy with the consistent finishes.
Well, the springboard, of course, was last August here, the Brickyard, the inaugural Brickyard 400. We had the great thrill to watch a sensational final 100-mile battle, and then you crossed the start-finish line. It was a storybook finish, a native of Indiana winning the Brickyard 400, and then all the tumult in victory lane. How much has that changed your life?
Well, I think I'll really, truly know when we come back here this August. You know, but it certainly has changed my life tremendously because, I mean, I've never signed so many tickets to a race in my entire life. And you know, just the fanfare, you know, everywhere I go, I can be recognized by winning that inaugural race, and it's so much fun to come back here. You know, we're watching Indy cars here for the Indy 500, but I mean, just the response I've gotten from the people and the fans from the Brickyard, and no matter where you go, you know, everybody has heard of the Brickyard 400, and you put me along with that as being the winner, and it's pretty amazing, really is.
Well, we look forward to next August, and you try to go for 2 in a row. The scary thing is, Paul, this kid's only 23 years old. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Paul?
You're going to see a lot more of Jeff Gordon. We're looking down from America's most enduring images. The Goodyear blimp is overhead, giving us an aerial view of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where it is not raining right now. The track is almost totally dry, and I hope we're going to see some action. But until then, we'll have some more great interviews right after this.
Back at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, getting set for pole qualifying here, the first of 4 days of qualifying for the 79th running of the Indianapolis 500. I'm standing by with Michael Andretti. And Michael, you've come so close here so many times. The last 4 years with Newman Haas, 89, 90, 91, 92, you could have won it any of those times, any of those years. In fact, all 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a tough place for us for sure, but you know, I think we've showed we can run up front, and I think if this race was called a 400-mile race instead of 500-mile, I probably would have a few, but it's that last lap we got to lead, and we're going to work on that this month.
Biggest disappointment had to be 92 when you just dominated the afternoon. 11 laps to go, a tiny little few dollar part breaks, and you rolled to a stop.
Yeah, that was a killer. On top of it was because my brother got seriously hurt and my dad was hurt as well. And, you know, I thought maybe we'd just bring it home for them and then to have that thing break, you know, with 11 laps to go. It was probably the worst day of my career.
Back with Newman Haas for 1995. Yesterday was around this time, or in fact, a little bit earlier than this time yesterday. You clicked off a quick lap, 233.7 miles per hour. The car apparently getting better and better.
Yeah, the car's pretty good. You know, we had a little bit of help to do that, though. You know, there was a lot of cars out there, and I had a good tow, actually, from my teammates. So, you know, the time's not a real time. I won't be able to do that by myself. But if we can run around 2:30 mark, though, we'd be pretty happy for qualifying.
We were standing here talking during the commercials. You look up at the windsock and you see the wind really picking up here. It's cool, which is ideal, but the wind is a real factor. How much of a factor? I mean, does it white knuckle you coming off a turn 2?
It's a real factor. Yeah, in turn 2, the way the direction is today, it'll pin the front end and it'll actually make the car a little bit loose as you come through the corner. But as you go down the back straightaway, you'll be flying because you'll have the tailwind. And when you get to turn 3, you're going to understeer, which means the front end's going to want to go for the wall, and that's going to be the determining factor. I think the guy that can get flat through there without a problem is probably going to be the guy that's going to be furthest up front.
Perish the thought of carrying 240 miles an hour down the backstretch with an understeer in turn 3, but you simply, can you feel the wind? Do you know by looking at the gauges that you're picking up some speed?
Yeah, you can see by the revs that you're honking when you get that tailwind for sure.
What will it take today? If we get qualified out there, what do you think it'll take to sit on the front row?
To sit on the front row, I think a 230 lap will a 230 average will probably do it, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll get out.
Michael, best of luck to you.
Thanks.
Michael Andretti standing by. Let's go down to Sam Posey.
Well, Jerry, you talked with Michael about his trials and tribulations over the last few years here at Indianapolis. How about Bobby Rahal? Bobby, 2 years ago, problems with the chassis, didn't even make the race. Last year, things looked almost on the edge of disaster. The engine wasn't putting out enough power. You switched engines, you switched everything. You had one of the great drives in last year's race. How does it feel this year to be so on top of everything?
Well, first off, I was trying to forget the last 2 years, but
we're not going to let you off that easy.
No, I know. Well, I mean, this year is a lot more fun. You know, you enjoy going to the circuit every morning. It's nice being relatively competitive, which we are with the other conventionally engined cars. It's a little disappointing to not have really a run at pole, but the car has come along and we've made some improvements and the engine's come along, so it's, as I say, it's a lot more fun, you know, this year than it has been the last 2.
Let me ask you this. You're a definite contender for the championship, tied for 3rd. I asked Scott Pruitt, of course, who's leading the championship a few moments ago, would he, in view of that, run Indy differently, would perhaps a little more cautious approach? How about you?
I don't think you can afford to run any of them, you know, over conservatively or what have you, because you've got to win races. I don't think you can win the championship just by finishing. I've done that in 1991. I was second about 7 or 8 times, and it still wasn't enough to win. And you've got to win some races, and the only way I know you can do that is to, you know, attack and to be aggressive and try to win, do everything you can to win. So I don't think we're gonna certainly run this race in that fashion. And if everything works well, we hopefully will be up front.
How about today? Michael Andretti just predicted 230 would do for the front row of the grid. The conditions obviously change from minute to minute. Would you like to hazard a guess?
Well, it's difficult. The wind is obviously a bigger factor today than it has been all week. And also all week, you're never really sure if anybody's getting a tow off of another car, because it can make a big difference. But I would think that the Buicks, however, can still run 31 or 32 in these conditions. And you know, everybody else, though, I think 29, 30 tops for a conventional car.
You seem remarkably cool, if I might say so.
Well, it's hurry up and wait, isn't it? This weather is not much fun. Nobody likes standing around all day, but as I say, the car has been working quite well all week. So, you know, I think we have a good qualifying car. And as I said earlier, comparative to the last 2 years, it's a piece of cake right now.
Well, Paul, Bobby Rahal has done it all at Indianapolis, from triumph to tragedy, and of course he won it 9 years ago. Maybe it's his turn again. Up to you.
Bobby Rahal. Over inside the track, there is the Fan Fest, just inside turn 2. The fans there anticipate we're going to be running very shortly here. We'll be right back. Well, not just racers and race fans here. There's a Chicago Bears fan keeping track of the preparations up to practice. And there are, of course, some athletes from other sports that transition over here. There's one of them. He's with Gary Gerald.
Well, you talk about Chicago Bears fans. They're here at Indianapolis as well as race fans. Here's a former Bear, one of the greatest of all time. Record book for the NFL in terms of rushing, Super Bowl championship in the mid-'80s with the Chicago Bears. Walter Payton now playing a very big role with Dale Coyne on a racing team with a couple of promising young drivers, Alessandro Zampedri and also Eric Bachelard. We welcome you to Indianapolis. You're no stranger to racetracks. But what's the involvement been like now as a man who's right here in the mix with an IndyCar team?
I'll tell you what, it's been, for one thing, it's been overwhelming because of the the attention that goes along with this motorsport and the tremendous amount of fan following that it has. But for me, working with a team, and that's how we approach this as a team aspect, and trying to make sure that every part and component of the team works together. Because if the crew guys don't do what they're supposed to do, the driver's not going to do what he's supposed to do, and that's where I fit in, because I know what it is to work with a team.
Now, Zampendri is a tick under 229 miles per hour. Eric is a tick under 225 miles per hour. Is that an indication that this team is really starting to come together in a relatively short period of time?
Well, it is. We have the formula in terms of working things out and putting forth our best effort with what we have to work with. At Long Beach, we had an 8th and 7th and 8th finished, and that was part of it, getting things all into to order. But here, we feel that that Alexandro has at least a 230 in him, and we feel that Eric, because he got in late racing over in Europe and he came here and he was a little bit behind, we feel that he has 228 or 229 in him.
Well, we're looking forward to see just how they do. It's great to have you here in Indianapolis with Dale. We wish you guys great success.
Thank you.
Walter Payton, one of the all-time greats in the gridiron, now he's here trying to make a name at Indianapolis. Paul?
As he walks away past his co-owner, Dale Coyne, you can see that this track is almost completely dry, just a little damp area down inside the wall on the front straight, but they want it 100% dry before they'll let cars out on it. Now, this is the draw. The qualifying order, we don't expect Dean Hall to go out. We're not so sure Michael Andretti will take out his backup car, but we'll give you the whole list as they drew late yesterday at 6 o'clock here in Indianapolis, right after the final full day of practice. And some of the numbers are empty, and that's because that position was not drawn for. But this particular chart gives everybody a chance to qualify for the pole, especially on a day like this where it's very possible that the entire qualifying order will not be able to present before the end of business on the day. Years ago, once the gun fired at the end of Saturday, it was over. But this is a little more fair system that guarantees you a shot at the pole. That is assuming that you don't pull your car out of the line. If your car is ready to be presented, and you've drawn one of these numbers, then you have a chance for the pole. And there's a goodly number of drivers there. We expect, once they get going, that of this large group, at least 30 of them will actually make qualification attempts. And in fact, we should have all but one row qualified after the first day. Let's go to Jerry Punch now.
Well, Paul, moments ago we spoke with Michael Andretti. Now we have his teammate, Paul Tracy, in the Newman Haas car. And Paul, thanks for taking a moment to join us here. Talking about, we showed some highlights early of the season, the 1995 IndyCar season. Probably what you didn't want to see was that beginning at Miami, but what a comeback 2 weeks later. Well, let me ask you, what happened in Miami?
It was just we didn't have a good weekend. We came out and the car we had some problems with the handling, and I was really pushing hard, made a lot of mistakes, and just basically drove it off the track in the first or second lap. But it was good to come out in Australia and really come back strong.
2 weeks later, Surfers Paradise, you pick up your 9th career win. You move on. Have had a good beginning in 1995. How about your shot here? The speed's getting a little bit quicker yesterday in practice?
Well, they are. We've been up over 230 every day, and I feel pretty confident about qualifying if we ever get to do it. The weather is going to be real questionable. I think it's supposed to heat up tomorrow, so it's I'm hoping to get out today before we go pretty early. I think I'm 8th and 9th draw on my primary and T car, and I hope to get out today so it doesn't heat up tomorrow.
Now, as you're one of the early cars to go out and the wind is picked up, we talked to Michael. What concerns you the most about the conditions of the weather, which are so important in qualifying, but as they are right now?
Well, we've had cool weather like this, but we haven't had such a strong wind or a strong wind down the back straightaway, so I think it's really going to loosen the cars up into 3, and we've only got a half an hour of practice, and it's going to be really critical to get a handle on it.
This place hasn't been very good to you. Can you turn the luck around? I mean, do you have anything you brought with you here, a rabbit's foot or maybe a buckeye, something to maybe change Paul Tracy's luck at the Brickyard?
No, I'm just trying to, be nice and clean and not make any mistakes. And we haven't done a lot of running during practice, so it's I'm still fresh. You can get burned out real easy because we're here for so long, and we're just hoping to qualify good and have a nice clean race.
Paul, best of luck to you.
Thanks.
Let's go to Sam Posey.
Well, I don't think there's any question about who I'm standing next to. If you're tuned into a show about Indianapolis, you know A.J. Foyt and what he means to this place. But A.J., I want to ask you about something that happened 30 years ago. which is at the time to set the stage that this place was dominated by Firestone tires. You ran on Firestone, so did everybody else that came here, and they had a long winning streak dating back almost 40 years. You had the idea that Goodyear ought to come here. Could you tell us about it in your own words?
Well, actually what happened, Firestone come in with some tires, and they let some other roadsters run them. They said ours was too heavy, and George Bignotti at that time was chief mechanic. We knew our roadster was a lot lighter than everybody else's. And so after that happened, being AJ like he is, it hacked me off. And I said, hell, there's other people. So I borrowed Tony Webner at that time was head of the racing program at Goodyear, and I turned around and borrowed some stock car tires and went to Trenton and run a big stagger and set a new track record and won the race. And then after that, we started testing. I've been with Goodyear ever since and done a lot of testing, and some of the group of guys that was with us has passed on. But I tell you what, I think Goodyear did a hell of a job the way they come here and work, because Firestone, like you said, dominated and had all the experience, and now they're back, so I might have to go get back in the car and start testing again.
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. That 10 years of the overlap, the great tire war, were great times for automobile racing. How do you see Firestone's return, so to speak, the other side of the coin today?
Well, you know, the ironic thing about it, the tires that was being made over here is not made in the United States. And I think that was a funny thing, but no, I have all the respect in the world for Firestone. They're a tough competitor. They're very good. And with Bridgestone being there, and Bridgestone's built racing tires for years, as you know, from over in Formula One and things like that. Oh, they'll be competitive, but I think Goodyear will still outdo them. Goodyear's a smart company, a good company, and not because I've been there so many years, but very fine people in the racing organization.
AJ, before we get to your driver, Eddie Cheever, just one last question for you. Everybody said the new tires have been a big part of the speed jump. How much, with your vast experience, would you attribute to the new tires here?
I would say that new tires are probably 2.5, 3 miles an hour faster. That's what it's showing, you know, with just the last year's car. But you know, one thing I've liked about Goodyear with their safety aspect they brought in racing is a heavy fuel cells thing like that would made it safer for everybody. And so that's another thing that Goodyear's always had in mind on building racing tires, and that is safety, and then they transport a lot of it to the highways. So that's one good plus for Goodyear.
Exactly. Thank you, AJ, very much. Let me get a word with Eddie here just very briefly. We're looking for a moment at Binford, Tom Binford and Danny Sullivan, Michael Andretti, who are checking the track right now. Eddie, you're standing with me here in the pits. What feelings do you have? If their check out there on the track says go green, are you ready?
You don't really have much choice. You have to be ready.
I mean emotionally, though.
No.
I know you'll be in the car.
I mean, we were all working on a few things in the car, and this really puts a monkey wrench in the system. We're probably 1.5 miles short where we wanted to be. The conditions today are terrible. It's very windy, and with this little drizzle that keeps coming by. But I mean, the show's got to go on. We have probably 100,000 people here in the stands, if not more, and it's time to get down to business.
I think you earned yourself an awful lot of fans a couple of weeks ago at Nazareth when you were able to take that defeat so calmly, at least outwardly. What was it like inside? It must have been, I mean, you had victory snatched from you with just a couple of laps to go.
We had worked very well throughout the whole weekend, and the race was coming to us, and it was very disappointing. But I mean, there's not much you can do about it. You have to move on to the next race, and the next race is the Indy 500. So if we sat and dwelled on that too long, we're not allowed. I don't want the team even to talk about Nazareth till this one is over. Then we can sit back and analyze it. But it was disappointing, but the team is running very well. We've had 2 good races on the run, one in Long Beach that was kind of snatched from us, and we had a problem with the fuel there also, and in Nazareth. So
is this fuel straightened out for Indy?
Yes, we have spent a lot of time and changed a lot of systems. I don't think we might have another problem, but I don't think it's going to be fuel. I hope not. If it's fuel again, then I don't know what else to say.
Of course, you ran out of fuel while leading the race at Nazareth. Tell me, as someone who has so much experience here but has never won it, now you're driving for A.J. Foyt, who also has an incredible amount of experience and who has won it 4 times. Has there been communication between the two of you that perhaps has given you special insights?
Absolutely. He has a different way of looking at races than I had. He's convinced me that it's very important, and I knew it, but he's convinced it's very important to have a good car at the end of the race, and that's what we've been working on for the last 4 or 5 races. he's the king here. And if you can get through all the Foytisms, and if you get through his hard-headedness, he can tell you more
AJ?
things.
I hope he's
Obviously,
out of range now,
yeah,
because
no,
if he
I've learned.
starts swinging, I don't want to be anywhere nearby.
Yeah, no, you're taller than 2. I just duck. He'll get you. But he knows so much. I mean, he's forgotten more about racing than I'll probably ever know. But you have to take what you need. The trick is asking the right questions. If you ask the wrong questions, you always get the wrong answers. But if you ask the right questions, now and again you'll get the right answers.
How about the addition of Scott Sharp to the team? Does that hurt the focus on your car, do you think?
I don't think it's helped the focus, but that's a decision that Foyt has made, and Scott deserves an opportunity. He's a great driver, and it'll be good for him. It'll be good for his learning curve. Racing needs team owners that give young drivers opportunities.
I don't think it's going to be long before you have to strip this jacket off, get in the car, and go racing. Good luck to you then.
Thank you.
Back to you, Paul.
Well-spoken gentleman. Eddie Cheever driving for A.J. Foyt. Well, there's the pylon down on the main straightaway, and overhead, Goodyear is a formidable presence here at this speedway, not only on the track, but above the track with the Goodyear Blimp Spirit of Akron. Hovering overhead, providing us with these spectacular aerial views. We want him to show us some cars on the track. Perhaps that will happen very shortly. We'll return with more of our coverage of the Indianapolis 500 time trials after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Still under rain delay at Indianapolis, but oh so very close. It still gives us a chance to talk to some of the competitors and their friends. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
And Paul, that we are being told down here that they're going to be putting the drivers in their cars very shortly, so we'll make it a very quick one. Brian Herta, last year, your rookie year, your first IndyCar race, and you came home in the top 10. A great run for you.
Yeah, it was great to get the opportunity to drive for A.J. Foyt here last year, and you know, we just want to get the car in the field solid today and try and bring it home better than that.
Yesterday, over 231 miles an hour in the car here, and the Renard Cosworth, and I think that that's going to be pleasing to the couple of car owners who've been watching you awful closely.
Well, I think so. You know, it's always tough to tell here by practice speeds, because with all the other cars, you can get a draft and you can get some fast laps. We tried to run by ourselves yesterday, and so we feel pretty happy with the speed we did, and you know, we'll know soon enough whether it's good enough.
Brian Herta hoping to turn it up maybe a little more today, Paul, and his car owners, Chip Ganassi, of course, and Joe Montana here in the pits, as he is the other car owner for Brian Herta. Paul?
Well, we're so very close. The order's gone out to put the drivers in the cars. Of course, today we also have third-round coverage of the GTE Byron Nelson Classic. So let's send you down to Dallas and Brent Musburger. Thanks, Brent. Looking down on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where it's dry. The cars are ready to go. The drivers being strapped in. We'll see some practice shortly. When we come back, we'll talk with this man, football great Joe Montana. And hopefully we'll see some cars on the racetrack.
Back at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, getting set for first day qualifying. Hopefully pole day will get underway very shortly here as the clouds have moved away and the rains have stopped. And standing down here on pit road with a couple of people heavily involved in what's going to happen today. To my far right, Chip Ganassi, who owns the car Brian Herta we talked to a moment ago is driving, and a guy in the middle who needs no introduction, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, Joe Montana. Joe, let me first talk to the guy that brought you into this sport in IndyCar racing. Chip, why go out and get Joe Montana? And I understand he's been a race fan for a long time, but what a great relationship.
Well, he's been a race fan for a long time, and you know, when you think of team, you think of winning, you think of determination, you think of a comeback guy. I mean, who do you think of? Joe Montana. I mean, there aren't many sports people today that transcend sport, and maybe 2 or 3 out there, and this guy's one of them, and I'm very proud to have him with us.
Couple of great Pittsburgh success stories here. And Joe, what is your role here in the operation, in the Ganassi racing operation?
Well, at this point in time, the biggest thing for me to do is to learn. As any spectator and being in love of a sport, there are a lot of things that take place inside that you have no idea about. And knowing that from the other end of it, I'm here to learn right now and just learn about the intricacies of this sport. And Chip's been doing a great job. Schooled me all day yesterday on the little things that take place during the practice and the time trials. And I'm looking forward to just being associated with another great organization.
Some of the people who have made careers in the NFL have gone on into motorsports. Joe Gibbs, Walter Payton is here, and are thoroughly enjoying it. Is that beginning to spread around the NFL about what fun there is over here at IndyCar racing as well as stock car racing?
No, I think one of the things that happens is that, like most boys, or you can even say women at this point, but you know, all the little boys have this thing about cars, and then when you get to this age where you got to give away the thing that you've done for years and years, I think you go back to it's been a childhood dream for me to play football, and you can always stay young. So at this point, there you are. You jump right back into being able to stay 12 again and look at and watch these cars and perform up close, and you try to look for that excitement again, and I think this is why guys go to motorsports, because you can get it. Just stand out there, watching them come down the front straightaway. Yesterday with Chip, you know, you see your car coming down, you start getting those goosebumps all over and getting excited for the guys, and you realize why they're still involved with it.
Now, Paul, that's a man who played in 4 Super Bowls and huddled up with everything on the line, talks about getting goosebumps watching the cars come by at 240 miles an hour. Joe Montana here at Indianapolis. Paul?
So Joe just joins millions of the rest of us. They've been warming the engines up in the pits. We can see some cars out. After our coverage here, we'll head to Texas for one of the oldest stops on the tour. It's the GTE Byron Nelson Classic. Then America, Cheney Humphrey, and the country's best take on Belarus and China at the Visa Gymnastics Challenge, plus the Pimlico Challenge, and updates from Indy on the Valvoline Indianapolis 500 Time Trials Report. That's all today here on ABC Sports. Back at Indianapolis, oh so very close to the cars going out for practice. Obviously in this segment we're not going to see any qualifying runs, but they are going to begin their practice. Bobby, thus far in the 7 days we've had so much, it's been a fairly safe month with only 2 incidents. Let's show you what those 2 incidents were. Early in the week at about Wednesday, rookie Davey Hamilton from Idaho coming off at turn 4. Caught the wall, a slapping blow, but about a 45-degree angle on the first slap and rolled to a stop.
Yes, and I went down and checked that car. That belongs, the mechanic on that is Ronnie Dawes, the kid I almost raised. You can watch it coming around, kaboom. But the right rear wheel pulled in too, ironically, Paul. It was a mechanical failure. So far this year, just think about this, nobody has spun a race car. First time that I can ever remember that happening in history.
And then the other incident of the day was last year's second-place finisher and rookie, Jacques Villeneuve, who on turn 2 just drove right out and grabbed the wall.
Now, again, I was standing right up above that when that happened. I was on Jacques Villeneuve watching him, and there you can see him. He's out in the gray, very slow into the gray. Kaboom, he hits the wall. I think he had a flat right front tire is what I think.
Now, the good news is that with Jacques Villeneuve, there's no problem at all. The Davey Hamilton crash did break his ankle, but it's been pinned, and he hopes to be back in a race car fairly soon. When we come back, we'll be talking with Tom Binford, the chief steward.
Back at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the good news is that track drying is nearly complete, and the drivers, everyone waiting from the words from USAC's chief steward, Tom Binford. And Tom, what is the status now? How soon will the track be green?
It looks to me maybe 10 or 15 minutes, possibly a little sooner and possibly a little longer, but that's about as close as I can come. And at that time, we'll start out the first practice for the first half of the draw last night. They'll get 30 minutes of green time, and then the second half will get 30 minutes of green time. Then they'll have 30 minutes to refuel for the qualifications, and qualifications will open. So if we're real lucky and don't have any yellow lights, we should be it's about an hour and a half now.
So that would put us at around 3 o'clock or so Central Time, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, which would give 3 hours to qualify. Now, let me ask you, ideally, how many cars can you qualify in an hour?
10 to 12. 10 probably is about an average. We have done as many as 12.
So in 3 hours, you're looking at maybe 30 to 36 cars, and depending upon how many's in line. Now, what are the rules that not everyone gets to go today that was in line?
Well, the rule is that if you stay in line and you don't get to go today, you can go tomorrow or anytime we reopen, and it'll still be counted as a first day qualification.
So the word is that from Tom Binford, someone could possibly get a shot at the pole tomorrow if they don't all get to go through the line today, the original line. But the good news, Paul, is about 10 minutes away, the green flag will open, the lights will come on, and we'll be able to have cars on the racetrack, with qualifying possibly at around 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 Eastern. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, the covers are off the car. The engine has been warmed, and here's one Honda that's been running at nearly 233 miles per hour, driven by this man, Scott Goodyear, primed and ready. Are you anxious to get out there now? This 30 minutes of practice with new conditions can be a little hairy, can't it?
Well, it really can. Everybody's trying to get everything they've learned in this week come back into about a half an hour to make sure that what they've learned is really what's going to happen today. We're about ready to go on to the 4 most important laps of our life here qualifying for Indy.
Have you at any time now in this week of practice run in this much wind?
We certainly have, and we tested here for a couple of days back in April, which had this much wind. But, you know, you never know until you get out there on the racetrack. But we've got good performance from our Honda engine, and the Firestone tires are working well. We hope our package is working well enough to be on the front row.
Driving for the Tasman team, and this is your first race of the year.
Yes.
Have you exceeded your expectations already by being this fast?
Well, I'm very pleased. We've only been working together for about 7 days, and ever since the beginning of this week. So I'm elated with the team, Tasman Motorsport Group, a great group of guys led by Steve Horn. And I think we've really proven that the Honda has the power, the Firestone tires are working. I think we have an opportunity to be up front, and I'm very, very pleased. You know, we had some questions coming into this, whether or not the whole package would work in such a short space of time. But my hat's off to the team. They did a great job.
All right, thanks, Scott. Paul?
Scott Goodyear, so very close to victory in the first win of Al Unser Jr. Well, you think you're disappointed? We had 2.5 hours here. We wanted to see cars on the track. We wanted to see qualifying. We've been preparing literally for months for this. What we will do is keep track of this throughout the afternoon, because we're going to have to leave you now and send you off to the GTE Byron Nelson Classic. But we will try and keep you totally updated today, and then also we'll have coverage here tomorrow on ABC Sports. We'll do our absolute best to keep you up to date. Bobby, the rain, it's cooled down, the wind is blowing, that's changing everything.
It really is, but the track itself will be very fast. The wind is going to slow everybody down. It's going to cause guys that thought they had beautiful cars yesterday to think that their cars are miserable today, Paul.
There's the man that everybody's watching. That was Arie Luyendyk. He has been the fastest thus far this whole month of May, turning a lap yesterday at 234.9 miles an hour. Much of it with the help of Tim Wardrop, his chief engineer, who walks off to his right side there. Now, we're looking for some incredible speeds once they get going, but as Bobby has suggested, they may fall off considerably, and Michael Andretti had told us that there's a possibility that most of the cars won't get much above 230 miles an hour, and it's just amazing to me that we take a speed like 230 miles an hour and just kind of shove it aside.
I know, but boy, it's going to be fast. It's just that after we saw the 234s, we really thought that was a big deal.
There's Brian Hurdes. He gives the thumbs up. He's ready to go, strapped in the car, all up and down the line. They're doing it. Those of us that are here are going to be able to watch guys like the defending champion Al Unser Jr. climb into the car. We will do everything we can to keep you apprised of what's going on here at Indianapolis on the run for the pole. It's been a disappointing day thus far. We do expect some speeds a little bit from now, and maybe even some qualifying runs. A great motocrosser, Jeff Ward, a rookie here. So stay with us here at ABC Sports, and we'll do our best to keep you up to date on Indianapolis and the time trials.